Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko Owoko and I am a lover of arts, culture and everything African. And here we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities and industry experts. Come with me, you're now a VIP. This is what to expect on this week's episode.
The one thing that also just really stands out for us as a festival, as Blankets, is having radical empathy, in the sense that we have very many moving parts when we're, coming together at the festival. There's the working teams on ground, there's the technical teams, there's the producer, there's the comms team. So where do you get to a point where you're able to meet at a sweet spot and support each other?
When it comes to booking an artist, you have to consider three things. Number one is, are they the right fit for the event? The artist you're trying to book might be the biggest artist in the country or in the world, but when you book them, it doesn't fit necessarily the vibe that you wanted to go with. So for me, it always is, are they the right fit? Is it the vibe that you're going for? And what is the output that you want to get after everything is said and done?
For me, being a producer of theatre, first of all, the journey was shocking when I started. Being backstage at a play and there's no food or water or there's no transport when it's late in the night and you need to go home for the cast and the crew. I could say with my chest that Too Early for Buzz has really changed what theatre in Kenya has become.
Hey, what's up? And welcome back to VIP Access. This is your favorite podcast discussing various industry issues and also talking to your favorite celebrities. Last week was amazing. We had an episode that was recorded at the latest Kilele Summit about what does success look like for an artist. If you didn't check that out, please listen to that episode. It was quite something. I'm so excited once again because we're going to have a really amazing episode this week. If you have been following this podcast on our current season, which is season 5, we've been delving deep into industry issues and also spotlighting my event that happens at the Goethe Institute called Industry Talks. This is where we spotlight industry issues, bring together experts and thinkers together with artists to chat a way forward for the industry. This is the beginning of season 5 of this podcast. We've been discussing various industry topics that affect creatives across the board, not just in the music industry, but we've discussed issues of copyright, intellectual property, writing music for film and TV, licensing your music, music streaming, and just how to leverage on your back-end data. We've also talked about building sustainability in the world of influencer entrepreneurship. One of my favorite episodes from the past was also one on new media entrepreneurship and just how to build your online footprint to become your own media. At this juncture of the podcast, we want to segue into the events industry. This is a major industry when it comes to revenue for artists. Touring is one of the biggest prospects for artists making money internationally, locally, regionally. So this is where the money is. And when we talk about corporates sometimes not supporting artists as they should, this is where a lot of corporates are putting their money. When you see a lot of the big events, festivals, activations, that's where you see the brands being heavily involved and pouring money. So it's something to talk about. But at the very same time, there are a lot of issues that have been surrounding the event industry, from safety, inclusivity, the quality of the productions not being up to standard, and even sometimes artists being booked not showing up. And at the end of the day, a lot of fans are sometimes left with many questions like, was it worth it to spend on this event? And am I going to go back to this particular event? The first conversation we're going to be having today is on event production, artist bookings, and managing the fan experience. Today, we want to unpack the etiquette, logistics, and strategies that make or break a show. From production crews to artists and fans, we'll explore what really goes into creating unforgettable moments on stage. And I'm really excited that I have such a diverse panel of speakers on the podcast this week. Gathoni Kimuyu is a producer with over 15 years of experience shaping Kenya's creative and entertainment landscape across theatre, television, and live events. She has written and produced some of Kenya's most beloved TV shows, including Machachari, Siu na Johnny, and Ma Empress, on top of being the creative producer behind Too Early for Bad, the acclaimed theatre series that reimagines Kenya's untold histories through bold, immersive storytelling. As a matter of fact, they're at the moment preparing their next show, which is going to be in April between 10th to 12th and spotlighting the legendary Wangare Maathai. So check out Too Early for Birds and get your tickets to their shows between 10th to 12th of April at Jane Bhavan Auditorium. Diane Ywaya is a communications expert and comms manager at GoodTimes Africa, the company that produces Blankets and Wine. We all know Blankets and Wine as the premier music festival, not just in Kenya, but East Africa. Diane has utilized her media relations expertise to expand the festival's visibility across Africa and internationally, driving increased attendance and brand partnerships. Her passion lies in crafting engaging and inspiring digital campaigns that truly connect with audiences. With unwavering dedication, Diane brings the festival's stories to life, helping Blankets and Wine celebrate and uplift African music, art, and culture, both near and far. Blankets and Wine have also announced the upcoming edition will be June 7th. So please check out Blankets and Wine and get your tickets. Last but not least is Frankie Theuri, who's an accomplished event organizer and promoter, renowned for curating unforgettable live experiences that blend creativity, precision, and vibe. Frankie and his team are experts in entertainment, lifestyle, and experiential events, conceptualizing and executing state-of-the-art productions from concerts and festivals to exclusive brand experiences. With years of experience in Kenya's entertainment scene, he's one of the people I feel is at the forefront of event organization and promoting, but at the same time handles the back end, especially when it comes to artist bookings and talent management. Back to a conversation of this week, we're going to dive into the hidden dynamics between production teams, talent, and audiences and how they come together, sometimes unknowingly, to create magic. We want to look beyond the basics of artist bookings, exploring what organizers should consider apart from tech riders and fees, and how these decisions shape the flow of an event. We also want to unpack the true value of a ticket. Is it simply an entry to a performance or the promise of a full, memorable experience? From managing expectations to elevating the atmosphere, we'll discuss how to ensure events leave lasting impressions. Today's episode is for you. Let's dive straight into it.
Hi guys, my name is Frankie or Francis Theuri, popularly known as Frankie The Brand. I'm an event organizer, curator, promoter, booking agent. I do everything within the field. So I'm glad to be here and give the advice that I have, and hopefully it helps someone here.
My name is Gathoni Kimuyu, aka Queen Gathoni. I'm a creative producer, a mother, and and a storyteller. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you guys are here. You guys look good. Thank you for coming.
My name is Diane Ywaya. I am a communications and branding expert. I'm very passionate about solving problems using comms and just telling stories of the different brands that I've been able to work with. I'm very excited to be here today to speak about the events and festival scene, and thank you all for coming.
So if I could just start from Frankie, maybe just to ask you guys, how did you get into events? I know it's such a broad question, and I know, for instance, for Frankie, I know you started with a media background. I knew Frankie as my go-to person at a certain radio station. I don't know if you want to mention that. So how did you come from the radio days to what you're doing now? I feel like you had already started doing it, but at some point you jumped ship. You're like, sasa mimi nimeenda huko event kabisa.
I was a radio presenter for 7 years, but before that, my love for events, I think, started in high school, because I always used to see people going for events and I'm like, what is this people are so excited about? Why are guys so excited about going for a certain concert and stuff? So I started being a bit more inquisitive and trying to learn the ropes. So now when I finished school, I remember I went for my first event around 2012, 2013. And I was very excited just to see like how things had been done, the whole experience, the layout of the stage and everything. So from there, I started like finding out who is involved in what and trying. The most people can say is no. So I started just DMing people on Instagram. Can you give me a chance? I'd love to show my expertise.
So you started that early?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this is my 10th year doing events now. Yeah. So I just started by slowly DMing guys. Hey, I've seen you're doing something. Can I come? I don't even want to be paid. Let me just be involved so that I can understand. So slowly that's how I started getting to know the event space. At that time, some of the popular events were done by DJ Krim and his event company. So that's how I got to get my first chance at events. So that's how I slowly started getting to know more about events and building my craft.
And what kind of events were you into from the beginning, like concerts, festivals, or all sorts of events?
I was thrown into the deep end. So I did everything from small concerts to the big ones to international bookings, everything. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Maybe many of you don't know, but I used to work in an insurance agency. I used to be an underwriter, and then one day I woke up and quit. I actually got pregnant, and then I quit. And one time I'm hanging out at my mother-in-law's house, and mother-in-law, the show was being shot there. And the scriptwriter of the show was also an actress on the show, and she asked me to help her read her lines. And that's how I got into writing Machachari, and I forgot about insurance. But believe it or not, also, I really wanted to become a radio presenter more than anything else. But then TV came before radio, and I started writing with other TV stations. And then came Coke Studio Africa, and then Too Early for Birds. And that's how I'm sat here today. Yeah.
Wow. We want to know more, but you're a good teaser. Then 9 years writing. Hey, big up, big up, big up.
Right. For myself, I've been in the comm space for 10 years and I had dabbled in a lot of stuff. So it's interesting to hear you're in insurance. I was in insurance once upon a time as well. And I've always been a lover of music. I think just growing up, my parents would always be listening to music, would go out, to family things, and there'd always be music. So I also just got to a point, that full circle moment when you're thinking about your career and you're just like, am I going to be in insurance doing comms or like in corporate comms forever? And then Blankets came up and it's going on to 3 fantastic years being there. So yeah, I just think the whole element of loving music, loving festivals from the time we were kids, and then now being able to be in this space is just like surreal. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I just want to bring it back home to our topic of the day before I get into individual maybe questions for you guys. I feel like these things, they have to work hand in hand together because you can't have a theater production without your actors, and then the actors are not going to deliver their best if they're also not treated right. So it starts from the moment you sign them up, like when you're booking an artist. What are you booking them for? What are their expectations and what are your expectations? Then how do you manage that to the very end? So at the end of the day, you make sure your person came on stage, they did what they were supposed to do, the fans left. We've seen and heard, and I've personally been at a concert where, I don't know, you wait for an artist, they don't show up or they come late. And then you see things like the artist saying, no, it wasn't me, it was a promoter. Even there was like a Nigerian artist who also had issues here, I don't know, with the hotel and stuff. It's like, it's the promoter. So we're just trying to bring it back home and see how all these things are intertwined. The event production, the talent show booking, and managing the fan experience.
I think for me, especially when it comes to booking an artist, you have to consider 3 things. Number 1 is, are they the right fit for the event? The artist you're trying to book might be the biggest artist in the country or in the world, but when you book them, it doesn't fit necessarily the vibe that you wanted to go with. So for me, it always is, are they the right fit? Is it the vibe that you're going for? And what is the output that you want to get after everything is said and done? Fortunately enough, I've been able to grow a big relationship with managers for artists from Kenya and outside. So it's always easy to be able to ask one or another, what do you think about this artist? I'm trying to get them. And also even them, before they accept the booking, most of the time these managers or booking agents come to the people they've worked with before in the country and they ask, so-and-so is trying to book my talent for the event. Do you know them? What is their reputation? So that there's no back and forth, or there's no situation where you have instances where you mentioned like the artist doesn't show up. Because it's always very fundamental from the beginning how you treat the booking agent or the manager. That's why you have situations where, like recently, we had one of the biggest bands in the country walking out from an event because it's all led by communication. If you don't communicate right, if there's a breakdown in communication or you don't communicate at all, it always ends up as a failure. So how you communicate with them and how you relate to them from the very beginning, from the initial conversation to how the event is done to when they get on stage matters a lot. Yeah.
That makes so much sense, because even from that specific thing you've mentioned, guys were like, you're not performing, but you signed the contract. But like what you're trying to say is, it doesn't matter that you signed whatever, but it's very good to manage the expectations, the vibe, because you could have had an artist sign, but if they feel like this is not the right space for me, they could still pull out last minute, and that comes back to you. Is it different for the theater productions?
For us is the story first, then the artist after. And then as a choice, especially for Tuali Fobas and even for Taji, as a choice is that to always mentor new talent as much as possible. So then most times we'll audition, 90% of the times we'll audition. Then when the artists come on board, the actors come on board, then there's a pre-production meeting, a table read, to just also get the vibe and the energy of the cast that you have, but to also make them understand what the goal is, and maybe to just cement a foundation of trust and the sharpness of the work. So after maybe a month, sometimes between 4 to 6 weeks, so you spend 4 to 6 weeks with the actors before you stage. And because you spend so much time with them and the production process, it feels like you gel into one big family that's just working towards a goal, and it becomes pretty easy to execute. Yeah.
The one thing that also just really stands out for us as a festival, as Blankets, is having radical empathy, in the sense that we have very many moving parts when we're, coming together at the festival. There's the working teams on ground, there's the technical teams, there's the producer, there's the comms team. So where do you get to a point where you're able to meet at a sweet spot and support each other, so that you don't have situations where, for instance, what Anyiko you were saying, where an artist will be like, oh, it's not me, it's the production company, or in the production company is like, oh, it's not us, it's the sound guys. So having that synchronicity, right, where we're able to hold space for each other and also still be very objective with the work that we're doing. So like, as much as the tech team may have like their riders and things that they want, it's also now important for us also to look back and be like, okay, some of these things that they're saying, are they feasible? Are there things that we're able to do? If not, how do we, let the team down easy, but still be able to do the work that we hope to do? So it's just the element of radical empathy and just a lot of transparency as you work with those different teams, I would say.
I want to ask maybe all of you, and you'll all have different answers. Take us through the process of booking an artist. I just want to book an artist. Where do I even start? And then, am I sure it's the right team? Am I sure they're going to come? Then if you book them and they're coming for an event, when do they actually come to Kenya? What then do you need to do between the time they arrive and the time they're going to perform? And do you have to pay all the money up front? Maybe it depends on different contracts and different artists, but what do you do to also protect yourself so you don't pay up front and then the artist doesn't show up? And I've also had these stories when an artist was paid up front and then they decided to go to another event that paid them most. So just take us through the artist bookings and even what sometimes is in the contract. I think most of us, we assume that a contract is how much you're going to be paid. But also there's stuff like the hospitality rider, the tech rider. And I've also had people saying like, these artists, they're asking for cold Hennessy at night in the middle of nowhere. How can they? But They can if it is in their hospitality rider, and it's important even for the people in the room. If you're an artist or you work with artists, there's something called hospitality rider, and it's okay to have your rider. Wherever you go, you ask. So sometimes actually all it takes is for you to ask for what you really need. If you're an artist and you need, I don't know, a cold cider before performing, or you need very cold water, that's what you need, and you can ask for it, and it can actually be in a contract. So it would be good to hear from your experience the process from start to end.
In terms of booking an artist, the first step is, number one, selecting who you want to book, and then also doing your research behind it. Like I'd mentioned earlier, you have to make sure that the person that you're booking is the right fit. Are they aligning with what you're trying to implement? Because I feel like most of the times people just book artists because they're popular on TikTok or their song is the hit song right now. That's why you have people who come and then you have fans later on saying, oh, we went for this event. The artist only showed up for 15 minutes. He only has one popular song. What did you expect? So I feel like it's always very key to do your due diligence on the artist that you're bringing. Do they have a catalog that's the minimum 30 to 45 minutes? Can they be able to give you a show that's good enough for 30 to 45 minutes? There's others who do an hour, there's others who do 2 hours. So it's very fundamental to also do your due diligence. In terms of who you go to, fortunately enough, I've been able to curate a good name in the industry where I can be able to reach out to certain people and they can be able to give me the names of the managers or the booking agents for certain artists. And it's always very key that from the beginning, when you start talking to them, you have to make sure this is what I want from you, this is what I expect from you, and they hold the end of the deal. Because if you don't give your asks the same way they give you their technical and their hospitality ride, and we've seen the craziest of hospitality riders. So it's always very key that you also, from them, is delivered 100%.
Can you push back on a hospitality rider? Is there room to push back on such a thing? Because I guess people always negotiate rates. Could you negotiate like a rider?
Very rarely do you negotiate, but sometimes you can tell them, we don't have this is the alternative. So most of the time, let's say, for example, they want Tennessee and your sponsor is Mattel. You tell them, we don't have this because this is our sponsor. We don't have an issue. We'll go with whatever they have. Yeah.
Okay. And in your experience, how do you rate the Kenyan industry, the Kenyan artists? Because you're also working and booking Kenyan artists. And you have the experience of booking Kenyan artists, regional artists, international artists. To me, they're coming from another country, not to mean Kenyan artists are not international. But what could you say is the difference, or have you seen any difference in our industry in the past couple of years? Like, are more artists seeming more organized, more professional, and also understanding all these other aspects of hospitality in their contracts and stuff like that?
What warms my heart the most is the last 2 years has been the industry for Kenyans. Our artists are putting in the time in their craft. They're putting in the effort in getting the right managers or the team behind them to actually elevate them. That's why you're seeing there's so many Kenyan concerts, and they're doing it by themselves. They don't even need people like us to help them. Most of the times, they'll call just to ask for advice. I saw you did ABCD. How do we do it? We're trying to execute the same thing. So it makes me very happy to see where the Kenyan industry is at right now, and we can only imagine where it'll be.
I think Frankie has really put a lot of that stuff into perspective. I think what I would add from the festival's perspective when it comes to how we curate and basically book our artists. So we usually have 3 slots. There's usually the legend slot. So that slot is usually reserved for artists who, I think the name just speaks for itself, like legends, people who've been in the industry and have proven themselves and are still continuously, going ham. And then we have a slot for the rising stars. So these are people who are already known within like their community, right? And then now there's the discovery artists. So these are people who are still uprising artists who are looking for that big break. So we're usually very intentional about grouping our artists that way, because when you look back at the ethos of the brand, when Muthoni, our creative director, was basically starting the festival, she was trying to create a platform for artists who are unseen, right? To be seen, basically. So that's what we're usually basically thinking about. And then just in addition to what Frankie said, who's the artist? Do they have, like a discography that they can actually come and play and people can actually watch and enjoy, opposed to, maybe just having one song, right? And then also just being very intentional about inclusivity as well. So ensuring that we platform women, people of queer descent and that sort of thing, so that for us, our platform is for everybody. We don't invisible artists. So we're just very passionate about ensuring that every single artist has this opportunity to get on this stage and, just shine and be seen.
And how hectic is it to be booking artists for a festival? Because your festival runs from the day till night. So it's not the festival where you're going to come see 3 people. There's a whole other onja stage with all the DJs. Can you give us kidogo mwa Kenya? Like, how long do I need to curate a festival of this magnitude? Of course, when you've been in the game for this time, it starts to take you less time. But for somebody who is starting and wants to curate festivals, wants to work like with big festivals, how would you advise them in terms of booking all these artists on time? How long of a time do you need? And then do you need like a team that is just working on the artist contract, or do you have like an external agency that does this? How does it actually work?
Right. So I would say it's a very collaborative effort. So especially if we're talking about the Onja stage, for instance, shout out to Santuri, who are our partners. So they're very instrumental in helping us figure out who to platform, right? Because they're also very strong in that space, in the electronic dance and music scene. And then we also have a robust team internally that's basically broken down for different people to focus on different things. So we have an artist management team that just focuses on all things artist management. So there are tech riders, hospitality, and all of that. And then we also have a committee that helps us now, again, also select the artists in terms of who we're bringing on stage. And another thing that we're also very intentional about is our community, who are our true north. So we're usually very intentional. Like, if you're listening us on socials, before we announce our artist lineup, always asking guys, who would you guys want to see? Just helping people even discover new artists with like our Spotify playlists and all of that. So it's just a very intentional activity that also takes time. So by the time we're even coming to announce the season dates for this year to the community, as early as last year, we're already starting to think through who are the artists who are going to start platforming for 26th edition. So it's, as Mudon usually says, it's like KCSE. Like, we're always on. Like, you never stop. Like, you always have your thinking hat on, and just like always have our ear on the ground. What is audience saying? What is the community listening to? What's hot? What's popping? What's the culture saying? So that's what we
collaboration.
A lot of collaboration.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if this question suits my my expertise though.
I mean, yeah, I'm booking you. See, we have a story we want to tell, and I want to book you for this role. And me, I don't even know why you chose this story and why I'm best for this story.
Okay.
So you're trying to book me. Book me. How do you book me?
Yeah. I auditioned.
When anybody calls, they're like,
So 12 for Birds is a theater play. It's a stage play. And Story Zetu is a production company since 2017. Oh, next year will be 10 years. But 12 for Birds is history storytelling stage play that retells Kenyan history stories in a cool, entertaining, and not your everyday history class. I could say with my chest that 12 for Birds has really changed what theater in Kenya has become. But for me, being a producer of theater, first of all, the journey was shocking when I started. It was quite shocking. There was nothing. There
was a set books, eh?
First of all, there was a lot of
offense to the set books,
adaptations. Yeah. It's important as part of the journey, but being backstage at a play and there's no food or water, or there's no transport when it's late in the night and you need to go home for the cast and the crew. And when I was on the TV side of things, I knew as an artist, I'm an artist who loves comfort. So if ever I become a producer who provides comfort as well. So you'll find that on our sets, there will never be any chakula producer, na hii ni chakula ya wadosi, na hii ni chakula ya caste. No, we all eat together, we all sit together. No one is special, we're all carrying this. Everyone is special, actually. We're all carrying the same story. I imagine that what is booking for you guys, for us, is auditions. And then from the auditions, we pick the best. And one thing about, when I say the best, one thing about Kenya right now, there's so much talent. There's just so much talent. You'll never be able to exhaust. All we need is more stories so that we can keep bringing out more talent. But then after we audition, the pre-production process starts. You will do the table read also to check if you're okay with some of the things we're saying in the script. When we did the brazen audition, there was a scene where two girls were kissing. So you have to consider that people are not just going to say yes because you've cast them for a role. So there's those conversations to be had before we get on stage. And the pay, basically, and the welfare of the cast and the crew.
How do you go about the pay? Is it a standard fee or is it dependent on the attendance?
So for cast, since I've been producing theatre, for cast has been standard. All cast get the same amount of pay because in theatre you have to acknowledge that whether you're having a paragraph the whole show or you have 2 or 3 monologues, the work you have to put in is the same as the person with those 2 lines or attending the rehearsals, gelling with the cast. All of it takes the same energy. So you cannot just say that you have a smaller piece, so you should be paid less. So we try as much as possible to standardize. We budget against ticket sales. So we ensure that at all times we're marketing as hard as possible so that tickets can be bought, whether a sponsor comes on board or not, because Kenyan theatre has barely had sponsors for a long time. This is when people are starting to look at Kenyan theatre seriously. And I mean, even the audience, because when you say it's a theatre play, everybody goes back to high school for some reason. Nobody realizes that the theatre you watch in high school and the theatre you experience out here is completely different. But the only way to find out is to come to the shows. So we try as much as possible to lure the audience to come into the auditorium to see. And that's how we're able to pay the bills. Yeah.
Could you take us through your role, the role of a producer of a theatre production?
It's so wide, but being a creative producer is a blessing and a curse because while the story is being told, you're also involved in the structuring of the marketing and creativity of the marketing and storytelling beyond just the stage. Creating a voice for the story you're about to tell on stage, creating it online. You're also the person who's looking for sponsors. You're also the person who's calling the suppliers for sound, lighting, whatever it is that you need. So you're a liaison person. You do it all, basically. So booking cast and crew, hiring, firing, planning before anything can come together. So the moment we say we have a show in April, for example, we have Wangari Maathai coming up in April. So when we say we have Wangari Maathai coming up in April, the plans started happening as far as November. By the time we're getting to the point where we're auditioning and bringing in a cast and crew, we've already been building so many other things, meetings with sponsors, with the script can become doing strategies and figuring out how the marketing is going to go before even the script can become anything. So the process is to ensure that every department that makes the production a success is smooth and good to go.
Fantastic. Somebody asked this online that I should ask you guys, what are some of the common mistakes? I don't want to call them mistakes because sometimes it's also like an oversight, or maybe what are some of the things that someone can easily take for granted but is very important? I'm sure there are a lot of things. So maybe a few things that you can think of.
I think the one thing people could end up forgetting, especially when you're thinking through your events, is like the invisible infrastructure. Like when you're thinking about festivals, for instance, so things like washrooms, network, your bar system, ticketing. Because most of the time when you're thinking of an event, especially like on the music front, you're just thinking about, or most people don't put into consideration the hottest artist and have the hottest lineup. But a lot of people don't put into consideration that those invisible things are the thing that make the event a success. So you could have the hottest lineup, but if things are not working on ground, like all of that just goes to waste, right? So I think, just like not thinking about the invisible infrastructure and also looking at your community as customers and not users or community, right? When you look at the way comms with people, just buy tickets. But like when you look at how community is evolving, like even for all of us, most of us relate to brands that have like social responsibility, right? Or people that are consciously aware of what's happening around them. So if you're out here just telling people to buy tickets, and you're not connecting with them, you end up losing out. So guys may come for your first gig and they won't show up again. So I think that's something, especially for people who are like possibly thinking about getting into this space. I think that's one of the things that people end up forgetting when they're thinking through their events.
Well, I think theatre is pretty straightforward and is governed by some rules. So there's loopholes as you go, or there's holes that you have to fill as you go. There's people you hire as you go. And I think that's also one of the things that I really enjoy about production is that it's very departmental. So as long as I have the right team, I know for sure there won't be a point where I'll be like, why didn't that work? But there has only been one time, the first time we staged Mboya, there were 4 other events happening. Blankets was happening, Oktoberfest was happening, Mboya was happening, and BYSS. So MOOC crashes, there are people at the queue who are trying to buy tickets at the door. There are people who are trying to buy tickets now that everybody's talking about the show, but we couldn't. And so we remembered we had a buy goods number, tail number, and that's what we quickly now put online, and we wrote on papers at the event and stuck them everywhere for people to buy.
Because you had like crowds that came that couldn't buy tickets.
Yes.
And you hadn't planned for that.
Yes. So when they started buying through the till number, it meant that we had to go through message by message to see, okay, we didn't have a system that would clarify who is who to get people tagged. So yeah, that was something that taught me a lesson.
So for me, the lesson is it's good to always have a plan B and C just in case.
Yes.
Just in case your hosting platform for tickets drops, or just in case your tags ends. Because I heard that's what happened at our concert recently. Unfortunately, there was a stampede, and it's because I heard that they were out of tags. And so people were just like waiting, no communication. So I don't know, you have to carry bags of tags just in case the other bag gets lost. Or do whatever else you need to do just in case, Like another situation is like even blankets. In September, the network actually dropped because there are too many people and the festival is not in charge of hosting the network. What do you do? But I know for sure in December, you guys had alternative teams that are at home. You're like, we'll call you and tell you what to post online in case we don't have network. That's another thing that you can do. Like when you have your event, talk to some people who are elsewhere and be like, if anything happens, we'll call you to post something. Because it could be at an event and there's like over 10,000 people, network drops. What do you do? So that's one thing I learned from like what you guys did in December.
Just to add on what Diane and Gathoni have said, I think something that's overlooked easily is security. Because that's why you see we have lapses whereby, unfortunately, we have stampedes. The biggest problem that we have right now in our industry, unfortunately, is we don't have the right personnel to handle crowd management. We might have the bouncers, yes, we might have security at every checkpoint, but they really don't know how to handle crowd management. That's why you have situations whereby tickets run out at an event, so there's no one to communicate with the team and tell them, okay, this is the alternative that we've gone for. By the time it gets to them, it's too late. People are outside, they're angry, they're impatient, and they're hearing that they're artists on stage. That's why you have situations where people end up bulldozing and entering. So for me, it's always number one, security. You have to make before you even open the gates or before even you get to the week of the event. You've sat down with all the relevant parties who are handling security and crowd management, and they assure you that the number of people who are coming to the event will be catered for, will be safe, and will be good throughout the whole process. Because, like Diane mentioned, The reason why people keep going to established events and not just events that have come up is because there's a level of consistency and there's a level of trust in them. They know, if I go to blankets or if I go to this other event, I'll be safe, I'll be happy, my belongings will be good, I won't feel like I'm under risk, and I'll be okay to move around freely. So yeah, security and also ticketing. You mentioned that story for tags. It's always good to have a plan B and C for tags just in case, because you never know. I've realized with the Kenyan crowd, most people like buying the week of the event. Let's say you have an artist coming in. The moment they see the artist has come in is when now there's a spike in numbers. Or even there's people who buy at the door. So the people who you hadn't accounted for at the door, how are they going to get the tags?
We have come to the end of our conversation regarding event production, artist bookings, and managing the fans experience, part 1. Next week, we're going to be dropping part 2 of this conversation. We're not done yet. I want to thank Gathoni, Frankie, and Diane for joining us on VIP Access this week, for joining us at Industry Talks, and continuing to do the great work that you're doing in the industry. We're going to be back next week for continuation of this conversation. But until then, please keep it VIP Access, keep it Industry Talks. Make sure you're moving the industry forward in whatever capacity that you have. Thank you guys so much for your time, for being here at VIP Access, for coming through to Industry Talks. Please come back next week for our conversation. And until then, you can follow Industry Talks on social media or my personal account, Anyiko Owoko. Please leave us your feedback, comments, suggestions. We'll make sure to look at it and hopefully bring a conversation that you're looking at or would like us to talk about to life. Until then, be safe and thank you so much. Ciao, ciao. VIP Access Season 5 is proudly supported by the Goethe Institute, Nairobi.